Let's just, chips ahoy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you got to wonder what the modern day equivalent of that would be, like to be a trendsetter or a world explorer,
I think it's
discoverer.
almost bound to only be technological at this point,
Yeah,
because or it's space, right?
yeah,
There's some unexplored regions of perhaps the oceans and things like that. But
yeah,
otherwise, I think it's Elon wanting to go into space and even make the technological progressions of putting microchips in our fucking brains,
yeah,
which I don't know how I feel about that.
yeah. I know. I've mixed feelings about that too, but I'd like for it to be a consciousness uh, evolution or something like that next, and that would be the next great frontier, is to be able to understand our own minds. That would be. I wish we would do that instead of going to space sometimes,
Oh,
because
for sure.
being
For
able
sure.
to like understand what dreams are, and
Or even where consciousness is actually coming from, right?
yeah,
Because that's where I do find you have a little wiggle room for the religious to talk to, materialist,
right,
because we don't know between our nervous systems and synapses what happens in between that becoming consciousness.
right,
Where it's a very,
yeah,
and that I think invites room for religious
oh
discussion.
yeah,
I heard a
absolutely,
quote recently from Majid Nawaz. I don't know if you're
oh yeah,
familiar with his work, but where the heart goes, the mind will follow.
right,
And he bases that somewhat on this disconnect of consciousness and our biology.
yeah, yeah. I often think about that, because like so much of our emotions are created in our stomach, right? And like life begins in the gut as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can change your gut biome, you can change your emotions, your moods, and you can heal yourself through what you eat and what you drink, and yet you can live without a stomach, or whatever, and you can live temporarily without a heart if something's artificially keeping you alive, but you can't get past the brain. But at the same time, like you only know perspective through your eyes, right?
Mm.
So it's not like you see with your brain. So really, there's so many different parts of us that make up the whole, that I don't know where this is going, other than the fact that I'm just so amazed by, and I often do think, like, where are my thoughts coming from? Because logically it's the brain, right? But it's controlled by your stomach. You need your heart to beat. You need your oxygen from your lungs. And what if we found out that consciousness really did come from like your fucking nutsack or something, right?
Yeah, I find even people who are heavily into mindfulness and meditative practices,
Yeah.
they do encourage this focus on your senses beyond necessarily imagining your consciousness is within your head. There's
Right.
even a particular meditation practitioner who encourages, he calls it the headless way, I believe, and you're
Okay.
almost making an effort to eliminate the sensation of having a head
Okay.
while you're meditating.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah, it's even a thing in some of my guided meditations. I will be encouraged to even figure out if I feel like my conscious perception is existing in my head or somewhere else.
Wow. That's pretty deep.
Yeah, it's all through that Waking Up app that
Yeah.
Sam Harris has made. It's an incredible app. It has so many different people offering so many different tools of meditation
Cool.
that it really revolutionized my ability to meditate.
Really?
Yeah, particularly because once you have a bunch of people giving you a bunch of different ways to get to a meditative state of mind,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden when you sit down, you're not getting all tense and
Right.
trying to focus on one method or two methods. All of a
Yeah.
sudden you have an arrangement of tools,
Yeah.
and you can sit down, close your eyes or leave them open, and all of a sudden just go to the tools you have available that feel best for you in that moment. Because there's
Yeah.
so many different
Makes sense.
methods to get into that state of mind.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, personally, since I probably my mom kind of got me into meditation early on for hockey and for sports and stuff. And I did, lots of different newsletters that she signed up for that send free meditations and stuff over the years. But what I've found works best is to just like piece by piece relax my body, like start at my toes and then just feel like just focus on my toes for a few minutes and wait until kind of my whole foot starts to kind of get warm and numb, and then it kind of climbs up my body and I can almost visualize it coming up my body until my entire body, it feels like I'm like in sleep paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
And I can stay there usually for a little while, and then that's the most restorative meditation practice that I have, because then I can really feel my body kind of release. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as achieving nirvana or anything like that, I've never really quieted the mind all the way.
Right.
Yeah, other than with mushrooms.
Yeah, I do even think that those things are elusive in essence when you have a goal of meditation. I don't think trying to achieve something like nirvana can be a counterintuitive
Yeah.
goal in itself,
Yeah.
where you're so focused on what you think enlightenment might be that I don't think people who are in that state of mind would notice if they missed it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's like, trying to see in the dark, right? You can't look at what you're looking for. You have to look away and then use your peripheral vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I really felt with DMT.
Oh,
And
yeah. I was actually
yeah,
thinking today, I was wondering if you've ever used DMT.
I have. Yeah, I've done it once. Well, I guess twice in one day, but I did it the first time, got some pretty good trippy effects, and I didn't meet the aliens. And then the second time, I definitely did. And the whole purpose of the trip was that, well, for one, it was to be nicer to women and to the women in my life, and immediately got up and called my girlfriend, and actually I told my buddy, because we sat for each other, we each did it, and I told him, like, I just got to call, her, I'll be right back. And but the most important part for me was the just the fact that it, with a little voice in my head, kept saying, this is available all the time. Like, you can come back here anytime you want.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need drugs. You don't need anything. Like, you can just have this feeling. Remember this feeling. And I remember for the next 3 weeks after I did it, I had that feeling at my fingertips, right? I could control it. And that was probably the best 3 weeks of my life.
I totally understand that in context of when you hear people who are heavily into meditation talk about psychedelics, they say they're very fascinating and I enjoy them, but I feel like I achieve more interesting states of mind through meditation.
Yeah.
And I do often find myself even getting some very difficult to describe effects from meditation that do
Yeah.
feel psychedelic and
Oh, absolutely.
introspective in a way that I don't achieve often enough in my waking life.
Yeah. Oh, I'd agree with that too. I'd say that I'm never more relaxed. Like, there's no way I could, relax and kind of at all achieve what I could with psychedelics. It's completely different. It's very similar in the sense that, the mind is not what it normally is, but at the same time, it's like apples and oranges. The trip versus meditation, like, it's way more enjoyable to do it by yourself. When it's, done by the drug, you don't have that sense of control, and you can't just wake up out of it, right? And
I think that's also part of the practice of psychedelic ritual, though, and the biggest benefit. I even find that with marijuana. One of the reasons I smoke pot is sometimes that it scares me, that
Yeah.
I get anxious about the things I do, the things I say. All of a sudden, I'm way more self-conscious,
yeah,
and it can be momentarily a hindrance.
yeah,
But overall, I think sometimes that moment of contemplation does cause me to be a kinder person.
okay, yeah,
Think twice before I speak, or even just word things in a bit kinder of a way.
yeah, yeah. I can see that. I know weed for me, like, it's it changes my consciousness, my personality, but not to the extent it used to, especially since I've started the SSRIs. I noticed
Mm.
that like I don't recede into myself the way I used to. Now I'm able to be more myself still, and even as high as I want to get, I can still function, whereas before I wouldn't be able to do that. And I think it's I don't know if that's just because of the pills or what, but in the last little while, the more I've smoked pot, the more it's become like what you say. It's for me, it's a tool to get to where I need to go, right? And I can get there without the weed, but it just it's like, walking somewhere instead of taking a car, right? And I don't feel like I'm cheating so much as I used to anyway. When you try and get somewhere, a natural relaxation from meditation, and I would smoke, and I'd be like, well, this isn't fair.
Well, that's what I found. I think, do they call it en- entheogenics when people are trying to get closer to spiritual effects through drugs?
Okay.
And I knew some people who were obsessively interested in thinking that marijuana made them more spiritual and things like that. And when I
Yeah.
looked into it, there's actually some counterintuitive information on that fact, in
Yeah.
which marijuana will do things like overall raise your cortisol, your stress hormone.
Yeah.
So it can actually make it more difficult to do something like get in a meditative state of mind.
Yeah. I can see that. That's definitely the way it used to be for me. I'd get
Hmm.
much more panicked, and it would just be stone thoughts, and I'd forget what I'd thought for the last hour. So I thought I was relaxed, but and I noticed with alcohol in the last probably 5 years that it really pushed me away from like the source, if for lack of a better term, my kind of God or source energy, whatever that is. I felt that I could only be close to that when I was pure of substances. But now that I've gotten on the SSRIs, I like, okay, well, that really helped get a piece of my brain out of the way that I needed to get there. So it's not about being pure for me, right? And once I allowed that to happen, then the weed also, it helped me kind of get closer to that dharma or whatever. But alcohol always pushes me further away, and it makes me a bit more of a bubbly person, but at a very high cost.
Yeah, that's something I found in Islam, actually, right? They have a big discouragement from alcohol, and they
Right.
believe that I think it's where they think the term spirit comes from, is that it actually is taking away from your spirit, that you're expending it,
Interesting.
and in a too large of a burst for it to be something you can have longevity with.
Yeah.
And I do think the word alcohol is where we get the word alcohol, and it has Arabic origin.
Wow. Okay.
But I do think Muslim views on alcohol have a great deal of powerful truths to them,
Right.
in which they do takes away from your life. It takes away from your connection to the
Yeah.
spiritual, I think.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I definitely agree with that. Weed, I mean, I wouldn't disagree if somebody said the exact same thing about weed, but to me it feels like, if you to explain it in vibrations, my vibration, my pure vibration, and then a weed, interrupts that vibration, and you want to try and match your pure vibration to the pure vibration of the universe, right? And if you keep fucking, it's like a spinning top. If you keep hitting it with alcohol, the top's gonna get out of vibration. It's gonna get out of sync, and you're not gonna, you know,
That's what I find more than anything. It is the volume of use and how the use particularly agrees with you. Because I know
yeah,
some people can drink and they do it in a great way,
yeah,
where they do have a drink or two on occasion and they
yeah,
never have an issue with it.
yeah,
And then I know a great deal of people who that's fucking possible for
yeah,
them to do.
yeah.